Hey everyone, today I'll be building and reviewing set 75951, Grindelwald's Escape from Fantastic Beasts, so the Harry Potter spin-off. Fairly small, 132 pieces, featuring two minifigures, Gellert Grindelwald and Serafina Picquery. Serafina Picquery, if you don't remember, was the American Minister of Magic, or I believe termed, Madam President in the American wizarding world. Up top on the box here, you have a image of a Thrustrel and Madam Picquery, and on the back of the box, you have a more play setup of these two fighting as Grindelwald escapes. This set is based on the opening sequence within the second movie, The Crimes of Grindelwald, aka the movie that kind of made the public and critics kind of lose favor with this franchise. I rewatched the first two movies last night. I think I'd only seen them all through once each, and I do think that particularly within The Crimes of Grindelwald, there were structural flaws, certainly in terms of how the movie played out. But I did enjoy this sequence at the beginning, and I think if the franchise, kind of contributed nothing else, it did have very high production value, some fun characters, a lot of great, animals and other features from the wizarding world that I do think translate nicely to Lego. So although I'm not the biggest fan of this franchise specifically, I do look forward to putting this together and having them flesh out further my Lego Wizarding World collection. Unboxing the set, we get a nice instruction booklet and two bags of parts. Notice that this set does not have the QR code to get bonus points, so I believe this may have been released just before they began doing that. That said, I do quite like the imagery in the background of New York and kind of further fleshing out the scene that this set is based off of. All right, so here is the set all built up with our two minifigures, our Thrustrel, and the carriage. Building time was very quick on this one. I enjoyed a lot of the parts usage though. I think that this carriage, though simple in some ways, has some really nice details that give it a lot of character, complement the Thrustrel build very nicely as well. So excited to dive a little bit deeper into what we have here. Starting with the minifigures here, we have Grindelwald, tan wand, comes with this trans blue spell piece. Also have nice torso and leg printing on this character. The back, you get a bit of detail on the torso as well. The hair piece, I think, captures his hair actually quite nicely. It's hard to tell, but there is a slight gradient going on here in terms of the depth of his hair, which I think nicely imitates the kind of fade that his character has. This piece you can actually use kind of in action way, which I wasn't aware of in advance, but essentially just if you press this piece backward, it launches out. So you can have these two minifigures kind of duel each other, so to speak. So I think that that's a fun inclusion to add a little more play to this set. Here we have Serafina Picquery. The dress piece, I like the color used here, but would have loved just a little bit of printed detail on the dress piece. That said, the torso looks nice. I like the detail here of a little bit of blonde curly hair coming in on the face print, and love this sideways top hat as well. Perhaps what's most cool about this character is this dark purple wand. I believe that that's the only time we see this throughout Lego Harry Potter. Could be wrong, but at least for a kind of prominent, well, semi-prominent if we're talking about anything related to Fantastic Beasts, but for a named character, this is definitely a notable different inclusion, and I think it matches the color scheme of our set nicely here. You know, black, red, trans blue, and dark purple. Reminds me a little bit actually of the color scheme used in the new Forbidden Forest sets that we see throughout the current wave of Lego Harry Potter. The Thrustrel here is going to be the same Thrustrel that we see in sets like the Thrustrel Carriage with Luna Lovegood. This piece is kind of a smaller version of the wing piece also used for the 2019 Hungarian Horntail set, of course in black. Quite like the design of this Thrustrel. It sticks onto the carriage here. You just sort of plug it in with these connection pieces. So I like that you don't need to rebuild the Thrustrel to have it full at the top in order to attach it to the carriage, unlike in some other builds that we often see with horses within Lego, where they give you kind of replacement pieces to have it stand on its own or be attached. The carriage here has a seat at the front. You could sit Grindelwald in this, but there you have these kind of bar builds here, and it's a little unclear to me if these are supposed to you know, go kind of lower, I guess, when you have a minifigure seated. That's probably correct. The instructions are a little vague in terms of the appropriate angle to have for having someone seated here versus just sort of aesthetic. I do, without a minifigure there, quite like them a bit higher, kind of at a nice 45-degree angle to frame the carriage. And I love this kind of plant-like piece in black here that we see use this bar to connect and make this structure. Really enjoyed this part of the build. The roof is easy to detach. You can fit inside a minifigure, maybe two if you made it a little cramped. Like that there are studs on the seat inside of the carriage so that you can fly this around without a character sliding off. But no other detail within here. I think within the scene, it's just kind of seating on both sides, so there wouldn't necessarily be a ton of detail to include here. There was a fantastic beast of some kind, not sure the name included within this scene in the movie, that we don't see featured here, as well as a number of other minifigures that they theoretically could have made for this set. But I think at, you know, under 200 pieces, a seat at the front and a seat within the carriage, they probably went with the best minifigure selections here. And then of course you're going to want a Grindelwald. And then I think that Serafina Pickery, even though she is not actually in the battle itself on the carriage within this scene, I think that this was a nice set to include her character. Rewatching the movies, she did, you know, stand out to me as an important character within the universe, a very interesting, kind of aesthetically pleasing, you know, character, costume design, and her character left an impression on me in rewatching the movies, so I am glad that they went with her as the counterpart here, as opposed to, I believe, like Abernathy's another character that they could have featured here, or some of the other wizards fighting within this scene as well. So overall, not necessarily a must-have, but I think that for what this set was, it accomplished its mission. I do like the aesthetic design of this carriage, and you know, it's a retired set from 2018 related to Fantastic Beasts, so if you are not a aspiring completionist like me within Lego Harry Potter, this may not jump out at you as something to purchase on Bricklink, but I do think that they did a good job with this set, and I feel, you know, satisfied with the build and happy to have these minifigures and this cool carriage, you know, within my Lego collection. I think that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.